only person that's smoking. I thought I told you not. Did you not get the memo of herbal tea?
No, I finished my supply.
Okay, cool.
I got.
You ain't got a little drink, Bam Bam.
I got a little drink. Don't worry about me.
I got my drink.
Let's go.
You got plenty of drink.
Ovi.
Is he coming in? Then?
What do you say?
Oh, there he is.
Ooh.
Oh. Hi, babes.
Hi.
I'm connecting to the audio. Hi, babe.
How are you?
I'm good.
Finally let me in. You know what? It was a struggle.
It was, you missed it. You don't know about struggle unless it was here 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Serving me eyeshadow, come through.
Huh? Oh, thank you. I was feeling a bit blue today.
He, him.
He, him.
They, them, or she, her.
He, him.
Who, him?
He, him.
He, him.
2020, everyone was saying that it was a shit year, but really, it's probably the most exciting year we've ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To be honest, because between a race war, between like
Bushfires.
brutality, between, what did you say?
Bushfires.
Yeah.
No, because there was going to be World War III at the start of the year.
There was going to be. And I knew it.
Iran,
It's not done yet.
It's
Oh.
not. It's not by far. Because do you know how many people are saying that aliens are coming?
Oh,
they already came.
We mean they're there already.
they've been here.
They're just watching. Like they don't want to interfere. We're fucking out good and proper.
But you're gonna see, because if aliens come, I'm the first person you're not gonna see my dust. I'm telling you.
Where? They're coming from the sky.
You know
Guys,
what?
more people
You know, real talk. I feel like aliens, they must be smart. I feel like they'll look at us and be like, nah, I'm not wasting my time.
No, yeah.
They can see the fuckery. They're like, nah.
If aliens have conquered intergalactic like travel, then they look at us like ants. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. They like what they have.
The population grows, and then they're like, let's just kill off the humans and have Earth for ourselves. Then what?
Yeah, as a resource. Yeah. We're fighting systemic racism, so it's hard to say, oh, this is good, you know. But also, with when you get into chats at after parties when you're kind of not in your headspace and you're talking about social media and you're talking about like the benefits of it, that's kind of what we as a community have had enough. Like of you can't even really quantify everything. Sorry, I'm rambling, but you can't really quantify everything that we've gone through. But now, a thing that when I have these conversations about social media and is the internet a good thing, is like, hopefully it brings us all together. Now, who can say, but one thing that can be said is now when the police are killing young black men, we can see and we can turn around and say, fuck that shit. And they can't hide. The systems and the racist kind of subjugation that we've experienced has always been there, but now everyone can see it, and hopefully there's conversation. As you know, rioting is one thing, but conversation and protest and actual change, the pulling down of statues, you know, it's harder for them to fight it now. Like, we're almost using the system against them.
I just hope that, like, do you know how many like white people still don't even know what's happening? Like, are just so out of it. That's the thing that I hope changes, because it's like, do you understand the things that we go through? Like, even I had an interview with Huffington Post, and I was like, you know, I go to the workplace working a 9-to-5 job as a feminine gay man. At the end of the day, I have control over what I look like, but I don't, because if I have to look normal and fit in with everybody else, I just feel uncomfortable. You know, I like to look how I want to look, you know, and then for that to be met with like stares, or you get the straight white men who want to fetishize you, do you know what I mean, and be inappropriate in the workplace. Like, these are things that as a black man, you know, I face, or have faced, and I've one girl that I used to work with, she said nigger next to me, like just so freely.
Yeah.
I think that this thing is bringing up a lot of past traumas in people as well, like things that people have like definitely like suppressed and like you didn't know, like, oh shit, like I was doing this because of this. Like the other day, I was like just talking to my friend. I was like, there was a point where, if you know me, on a normal day, I'm not dressed up. I'm gonna wear my jogging bottoms and I'm gonna be like rocking about like how it is. Like, don't ask me to do shit. But there was a point when I was younger where I wouldn't want to wear jogging bottoms for the simple reason that I associated wearing jogging bottoms with being seen as, oh, you're going to be a typical black boy and you're going to be seen as a quote unquote thug, and then the police are going to come and arrest you, and that's not the image that you want to go to. But imagine that one piece of clothing, I stopped wearing it for how many years just because of shit. Like, this is what I associated with, and it's so mad, like, when you think about it now, but...
I was going to say, like, Karnage, I think when you were saying about, you both just said it. I think a thing is you can control what you look like, but you can't control what how you're seen. That's the thing.
And also, I think what's difficult, especially like for queer, like feminine or trans black people, especially, like, we can see the nuances of each other, but regardless of who we are individually, we're tarred with the same brush, this stereotype that they think of what a black person is like, and they make that assumption regardless of who you are, how you carry yourself, or whatever that is. Like,
but do we make it better?
Unavoidable.
Like, do we make it better by shaming each other and disrespecting each other, calling each other out of our names, you know, belittling each other just for being different?
We definitely don't. But I think like that's an internal dialogue that we are allowed to have as a people, and that should be our own, and that's our own fight to go through. But we hold on to these things, and at the same time have to be scared of being killed by white people. Do you know what I mean? That's what this is about. Like, it's one of the elements that it's about. You know, it's two different conversations, but people are getting, we've been getting killed. Do you know what I mean? And the white person doesn't have to fit that.
Opportunity to like have all the conversations. Yeah. Have all the conversations now. You know, sort out everything that we need to sort out and move on as a people for the better.
Can I ask a thing? So do you think, because I think conversation is important, and I think I felt a bit of I'm going to say solace or positivity from, it sounds like there's more of a conversation between black people and a certain kind of white people. They're listening a bit more now, or they can't, like you were saying, there's so many white people out there who have no idea what's going on. And now it's like, we look at them like, how the fuck can you not know this shit? Like how can you not see, or even how can you not believe it when we tell you? How can you be asking for facts and for figures when we're telling you our lived experience? And now it's so in their face that, you know, they can't, and that's...
Can't avoid it.
I just feel like at the same time, I just hope this is not just a wave as well. Like, oh, it's so trendy to put BLM on my Instagram. So now everybody's here saying like, oh my God, I apologize for people that I've mistreated in the past. Okay, great. But what are you going to see? Like, what are you going to actually do? Like, if I'm getting followed in the shop, because that happens when I just go to a shop for whatever reason to buy something, and now I got someone follow me, someone from the shop following me, are you going to stand up for it? Or you're just going to like ignore and then post on Instagram, Black Lives Matter, like, like.
So true. It is positive that we're like, that a certain amount of white people are open to having these conversations. But I think it's also really important to know that, like, it's important for us as black people to preserve our mental health. Like, it's not our jobs to educate those people, those resources, that information, Google it. Like, that information is out there for you to go and find for yourself. I do understand, like, there may be sometimes exceptions to that rule. If I feel like, personally, I feel like I'm in a space or I have the capacity to have those kind of conversations, yes, but it's been a bit of a jar for me personally that my DMs are blowing up with you lot asking me or apologizing for things that have happened in the past. And it's like, this is stuff that I don't necessarily want to go through. I don't want to relive this trauma to help you do something which you should have been doing a long time ago. Your mum should have taught you this. Your nan should have taught you this. And if they haven't done that, it's now your responsibility to educate your family and your people.
Yeah, there's only so much that you can do, I guess, because like going back to it being like so traumatic, like why is it the same people that are coming to me? Like I've had people apologizing to me and I'm like, what are you apologizing for? Or people ask me like, oh, how is it? But at the same time, you've got the resources there, and I feel like in the society and world that we have at this moment in time, we have the internet, we have books, and there's so many ways that you can find out information. So for you to come to me for like me to like repeat this story like over and over again, what are you actually getting out of it?
I don't know if it's just maybe like what I'm like as a person, but I sort of felt a bit different about it. So I know that for some of my own friends, I might be their first black friend or the only black person that they know personally. And so I sort of felt responsibility from myself to use my own personal experiences to sort of bring the issues closer to them. Because you could just watching on the TV and you see what they've killed a black man and you're just like, okay, well, I don't know any black people. I can't really relate to that. But suddenly you think, oh, actually, Patrick's my friend. He's a black man. I sort of felt that I could use myself sort of as a bridge to get people to relate and understand and sort of delve into it themselves. But for me to sort of be that starting point where they get kind of think, oh, this is actually closer to home.
But don't you think that they should do it anyway? Like that someone has been killed? Like, I think that's the problem. I feel like that's very mad, you know, that
you know what? Yeah, I actually feel like we as black people, we do have to educate because there's so much that we don't learn as kids. Like, I don't know about you guys, but me growing up in Portugal, I did not learn about Black history. We don't have Black History Month. So all I learned about Black people, like my ancestors, was the fact that Portugal went there to the country and took everything from it. Like all I learned about my country, my history, like from my parents' history, is that the fact that we were slaves.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Even that
makes us smaller as a people. That robs us of the beauty of like the you know the amazing rich culture of blackness that's been absolutely gone.
Erased.
Erased. Yeah. But I think when it comes to like educating people, because it's good point said, a thing that I clocked when I was feeling, because the weight of it was mad on my head, especially as a mixed race person raised by a white mum. So my own, I've got my own fucking huge like hang-ups with my own blackness that I couldn't even begin. I don't understand. I can't tell you. But like I was like, you know what, you've got to, I think, as a black person, you've got to be gentle with yourself, and you can at 1 minute be like, you know what, fuck this, I'm not having this conversation, I don't want to, and at another moment turn to your friend, your white friend, and educate them. And it's up to you, it's up to like us to decide what that is and to allow ourselves to be with that and not to need to feel one way or the other. Because if you know, that should be the base level, or you're just going to continue build up a new trauma that really we don't deserve to harbor.
Right. I think it's like that thing of like whether you have the capacity to do it at that moment in time. Can I be devil's advocate? And I don't know, like obviously like this is your career, your industry, but I wondered like what was your perspective from the makeup side of things? Because like obviously we saw stuff with like L'Oreal and like them kind of apologizing to Monroe, but obviously as like a dark-skinned person who's in the makeup industry, like what has that been like? Like have you been like clocking brands like, oh, how come you've now, I don't want you to say nothing like obviously that's gonna like affect, but I just want to see your
Well, sponsorship. I'd say, do you know what? During my journey, it's definitely been difficult. I'd say that a lot of, put it this way, it's kind of reached a point where if a brand hasn't worked with you, they've made that conscious decision not to work with you for whatever reason, because it's such a, on the outside, it seems like, oh, but when you're on the inside, it's a very small world. Everybody knows everybody. So if a brand hasn't worked with you, you know why they haven't worked with you, if that makes sense. And you just need to like spend a minute looking on their page. You can see they've not worked with any person of color or anybody of a certain skin tone, you know. So there are a lot of brands that hadn't worked with me, or, you know, we'd reached out to and hadn't responded, who are now suddenly all inclusive. They're in the DM, they're in the emails, you know, it's happening. And to be honest with you, it's actually crazy. Someone did ask me if I would work with any L'Oreal brand, and at first I wasn't sure, but since I feel as though they've amended their wrongs to an extent by, you know, taking Monroe off. It sends out the message that they are trying to change. And I think that you just need to kind of like keep an eye on these brands and like actually look for the real change, because posting a Black person on your page doesn't mean anything. But when you're actually making those decisions to hire a Black person in your business, in, you know, director levels or what do you call it, executive levels, then you can actually see that, okay, they're starting to get it, and they're starting to understand how the change should be made. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I do think that at least on the beauty side, brands are starting to kind of improve based on what I've seen so far. But it's early days, you know, in a month's time, they might go back to their old ways.